So I really don't care to edit a very long video like every Sukuna variant versus every Gojo variant, so instead, I'll make whatever matches up between them that I want. Anyways, the discussion for now is Sukuna and Gojo at Shibuya, and how a clash between the two who still stood at the top would be. And to get it out of the way, yes, I do think Sukuna wins, which may still be a hot take even though I've seen more people agreeing with it. I do think it's a compelling argument that isn't as one-sided as most casual fans like to think in Gojo's favor, but that doesn't mean I think it's the most complex of topics either. Starting with Gojo, he's just very consistently the strongest sorcerer in the modern era, placing him above the likes of Yuki and Yuta, both of which should range in the 10-finger range for Sukuna, considering Yuta's performance against the Sukuna that's around that level, while he's in base. And Gojo also dominates the disaster curses, with Jogo being stated to be 8 to 9 fingers worth of strength, so Gojo is very consistently above that 9 to 10 finger range. I do have a small contention with the normal interpretation of this scaling though. I only really think it applies to his blue enhancement, and other applications regarding his curse technique. Not to take away from Gojo's physical superiority to the people around him, just the fact that it appears that he is using his blue reinforced punches when he's fighting Jogo due to the effect on Jogo, and blatantly used it when training with Hikari and Yuta. So Gojo just generally does use his curse technique in physical combat, and is where he gets his best feats from. But as far as just AP goes, he's upward of 10 fingers physically when he has blue reinforcement, and I think the same goes for red considering its usage in the fight against Jogo. For purple, I do think it is obviously stronger, but primarily it matters due to the Dur negation, which it is a strong attack, but whether or not Gojo has even conceived the possibility of unlimited hollow at this point isn't known, so that application might not even be in play. Obviously, Gojo has his standard teleportation, telekinesis, and the basic application of the limitless technique, but they aren't really the end-all be-all or anything. His domain expansion, while powerful, is honestly going to be lackluster here. Unlimited Void at this point is nowhere near its refinement in Shinjuku, and while Gojo is a skilled user still, he lacks the experience and technique he does later on that allows him to consistently clash with Sukuna, while Sukuna's only nerf to his domain is output. As far as speed goes, I think this is the most obscure thing to scale for both, since there's not much direct scaling to go off of. But Gojo is significantly faster than Jogo, nearly to the point of blitzing him. I say nearly because while there is an instance of Gojo effectively blitzing Jogo, Jogo on other occasions is able to react to Gojo. So I think it's just a huge gap in speed between them, but I don't think it's necessarily a blitz difference. Should just still be the fastest sorcerer of the modern era, although there is room for interpretation, since we know from Naobito that applications of your curse technique do apply to this statement. So while I do think Gojo is the fastest conventionally, Blue may also play a role in his status as the fastest. This puts him faster than Yuta and Yuki though, who are fast enough to react to Kenjaku, who should be faster than the disaster curses including Jogo, so more consistency for that. Now for Ryoma and Sukuna, I honestly think he's still a little underrated at 15 fingers. People give him a lot of respect, but I definitely go as far as to say that he does win this fight. I'll compare him to the pre-Prison Realm Gojo in every way. In strength, he's obviously not limited to the tiers of 8 to 10 fingers, unlike all the relevant characters Gojo upscales, and on the topic of how they directly compare, let's look at their fights with Jogo. As I said earlier, Gojo does use a blue reinforcement against Jogo, and an amped red due to him revealing his hand. Gojo doesn't express a desire to question Jogo until later on into the fight, so I see absolutely no reason as to why this isn't just Gojo being straightforward with intent to kill. Not even to mention the fact that in the domain, Jogo straight up scratches Gojo with an attack that is notably not the sure hit, and simply a test. So Jogo displays the capability of damaging this Gojo, and enduring amped attacks. Comparing that to Sukuna's fight, it's not even remotely close. Jogo doesn't tank a single attack. Every punch, every slice, it all mutilates and mauls him. Just for small comparison of how Jogo is hurt by Gojo and Sukuna's attacks, Jogo after a point-blank shot with red, and getting blitzed and kicked into the earth, looks like this. And this is how Jogo looks after getting slammed into the ground once by Sukuna. There's a very notable difference, and Sukuna consistently blitzes him, unlike Gojo, who only lacks injuries due to Jogo getting blocked by Infinity, which is pretty much a non-factor in this fight. Not only this, but in a physically weaker body, Megumi's, 15-finger Sukuna also clashes with Gojo after the Prison Realm. This Gojo being bloodlusted while Sukuna is seemingly laid back. This also just directly translates to better curse energy output, since unless you're going to argue that Megumi is physically superior to Gojo, then Sukuna has to have superior curse energy reinforcement to be clashing with Gojo here. As I said before though, Sukuna is basically constantly blitzing Jogo, unlike Gojo, who doesn't really. Gojo only really blitzes Jogo on one occasion, and you can't even discredit alternate interpretations of that movement, like teleportation, which is a known part of Gojo's arsenal, even at this point in the series. So Sukuna is likely just outright faster too. Obviously, as far as other abilities and counters go, Gojo's Limitless is just basically null, as Domain Amplification is still a blatant negation in Sukuna's case. Gojo's Teleportation doesn't mean much, considering his Curse technique will be burned out after Domain, and on the topic of Domains, Gojo loses that horribly here. The only difference in Domain between 15-Finger Sukuna and Shinjuku Sukuna is the fact that there's just a bit less output in Shibuya, which is still above Shibuya Gojo's. While in Gojo's case, he can't make Basketball Domain, he isn't as adept at barrier techniques, and he has less output. Every one of these clashes would go the same way as the first clash in the Shinjuku fight, except Sukuna will just overpower Gojo physically too. As far as skill in hand-to-hand goes, Gojo might still be superior, just as he was in Shinjuku, just because I don't think he would get that much better in hand-to-hand over the time skip. So I just don't see very many ways that Gojo can really pull this off though. He loses in Domain Clash, he gets overpowered physically, he's slower, Sukuna will just RCT through his big attacks like Purple, just like he does in Shinjuku, and since Gojo can't force Sukuna to change his barrier now, Sukuna is just pulling out Furnace. Sukuna wins this with like mid-difficulty. Gojo is just another fish on the chopping board in this version of the fight. But anyways, have a great day, and I'll see the rest of you next time.